Hey guys, James here with Waterford Business Solutions. And as we kind of continued talking about ServiceTitan, we spent some time over the past year talking about how to integrate ServiceTitan, how to set up our ServiceTitan to integrate with QuickBooks, the setup on the back end of ServiceTitan to use it as both a dispatch and kind of accounting platform. We wanted to start getting into using ServiceTitan day in and day out, and how once we get the initial setup taken care of, how we're going to use ServiceTitan daily to push information over into QuickBooks or your accounting platform and what that kind of looks like. So today we're going to talk about what is batching, posting, and exporting in ServiceTitan. How does that work? And what do you need to do on your end to keep everything working good? Before we jump in, guys, if you're having issues with ServiceTitan, whether it be understanding ServiceTitan, implementing ServiceTitan, getting ServiceTitan to work with your accounting system, or making sure your accounting system is correct with ServiceTitan, feel free to go ahead and reach out to us here at Waterford Business Solutions. We'll be happy to work with you and train you in how that integration's working, making sure everything's set up correctly, and making sure everything is as accurate as it can be. You can give us a call at 864-351-0852, or you can email us at info@waterfordbusiness.com. Now, as far as working with ServiceTitan, it's really important to understand that ServiceTitan's integration is different than many other integrations for other softwares out there, home service softwares like Jobber, like House Call Pro, like ServiceMate, Notify. A lot of those platforms have an automatic integration where you do a trigger in the system and it automatically pushes something into your accounting platform or QuickBooks in this particular case. ServiceTitan doesn't work like that. ServiceTitan works on a older, kind of more export-based platform where there isn't an automatic push going on. Now, we did talk a few months ago about the auto export function and why that's not a good thing. And if you've got questions on that, I encourage you to go back to look at that video. But to use ServiceTitan correctly, you're going to have to manually export everything to QuickBooks. But before you export, we have to go through and create a batch, post a batch, and then we can finally export. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about what is a batch. Well, a batch is just going to be a collection of financial transactions. Typically, this is going to be like your invoices or your payments, or both can be in the same batch. Now, you can auto batch transactions. Again, go back to our video a few months ago on the auto batching and auto exporting, and it will explain. And overall, auto batching is not per se a bad thing, especially with credit card transactions, because we want to make sure that when a credit card payout hits your bank account, we do have all those payments there. So auto batching isn't per se a bad thing, but we do have to make sure that we are either using that auto batch correctly, or we are creating our batches here and putting all of our invoices and payments there. And basically, it's noting that this stuff is ready to go ahead and be transferred over to the accounting software. Once we go ahead and create a batch, we move into posting. Once we go ahead and post, or what's going on with posting is a few different things. We're going to first change the status of any batch from pending to posted. It kind of makes a note there. It locks some of these transactions down because once they're posted, you can't modify the invoices, you can't modify the payments anymore. So it's important to make sure that when you put something in a batch and once you post that batch, that you're done editing that invoice. We don't want to post a batch with invoices that are still in progress, or that you might have change orders on, or that you might give a discount on, or something like that, because once we go ahead and we post it, that invoice is locked and it can't be modified unless you go ahead and unpost the entire batch. To modify anything, whether it be the invoice, putting a discount on it, changing a payment method, anything like that, you would have to unpost the batch, modify the transaction, and then repost the batch there. Ultimately, the reason that ServiceTitan does the posting is it wants to make sure that there is integrity between the accounting software and ServiceTitan to prevent mismatches or anything there. So before we export, we lock everything down in ServiceTitan so it can't be modified, and that way it stays matching once it gets over into QuickBooks and or your accounting system there. So posting is a vital step, but we have to make sure that we are ready and able to go ahead and take the posting over to the accounting platform without any more modifications. Once posted, then we'll go ahead and export a batch to the accounting software. Now for us, if we're working with clients maintaining their books, this is generally where we're going to step in and we're going to export to the system to ensure that it occurs, there's no errors, everything is accurate, and matches up between both ServiceTitan and QuickBooks. If you're doing this yourself, when you're exporting, you want to make sure that it exports successfully. You can check it over in QuickBooks and that everything is over there, and then you're good to go to keep moving forward. If it doesn't export successfully, you get an error code or something like that, we need to figure that out and correct it out. Exporting transfers is going to finalize everything in ServiceTitan in the accounting system. Once you export, you can no longer unpost a batch. An export pretty much locks down a post. So before you export, you've got to make sure there's nothing changing here in QuickBooks or on the invoice, on the payment. That is locked. If you need to make a change after it's exported, it is a tedious task, and we'll talk about that in a future video. You can only export posted batches, so you can't just create a batch and then immediately go over to exporting and send those over to your accounting system. You've got to create a batch, then you've got to post the batch, then you can finally export. If you are trying to export a batch and you're not seeing it, more than likely it's because you haven't posted that batch in the first place. Ultimately, all of these steps, while mundane and annoying, it helps to ensure that ServiceTitan and the accounting records are all aligned, so we don't have big mismatches on numbers or anything like that. Now, when we are looking at going through this, there are multiple steps to do this. So now that we've kind of determined what each of these are, now let's talk about the steps to do each of these. So for batching invoices and payments, you're first going to, after you've created your invoice, taken your payment, whatever it may be, you're sure that pretty much everything is good to go there, you're going to go ahead and navigate to the accounting tab. You're going to select a batch from the drop down there and then choose create a new batch. From that screen, you're going to select all the invoices and or payments that you want to include in that batch, and then you're going to save that batch. Typically speaking, what we're going to see here is any jobs that were finished and closed out for the day. At the end of the day or the beginning of the next day, we're going to batch all of those jobs and any payments associated with those jobs and any payments that you took there to go over and send over to the new or to the accounting system eventually. So that's creating a batch. That's the first step in all of this. Then we're going to move to posting the batch. Once we're going to go ahead and do that, again, we're going to navigate to the accounting tab. We're going to again select a batch from the drop down. Then we're going to search for the batch. Generally, we recommend filtering by the pending status. And once you filter by that pending status, click the batch number, open the drop down on the batch number, and then select post the selected batch. That will go ahead and change the batch status to posted. Now keep in mind, once we post this, it is locked. So while we can go ahead and create batches every single day of transactions you're doing, you don't want to post it until you are sure that the dispatch team, the tech, the billing team, whoever it may be, that is messing in those invoices or doing any type of notes, any type of scheduling, anything like that, they have fully finished everything they need to do in the system there. So that is the steps to post a batch. Finally, the exporting of a batch. Again, from that batch drop-down, we're going to go ahead and choose Select Export. So again, going to the Accounting tab, selecting the Select a Batch drop-down option, then going into the batch area, choose the drop-down, and then select Export. If successful, it's going to go ahead and transfer to the accounting software. If an error occurs and it pops up and says error and doesn't go over to the accounting system, you'll want to navigate to the reports section and pull the pending exports reports. Once you pull that report, it will list out whatever errors may exist on that export that are preventing it from going over. You'll have to go ahead and correct whatever those errors are before you can go ahead and export it over into QuickBooks or your accounting system. That may mean that you have to unpost a batch. So you'll have to go back, select unpost on the accounting screen in the batch area, find that batch, unpost it, make whatever modifications you have to do, go back in, repost the batch, and then re-export. And you'll have to do that until all the errors are fixed for anything on that batch. So generally, we don't want huge batches. We don't want to be batching over an entire month's worth of things. Even an entire week's worth of stuff we really don't want to do, because if you get an error in sending stuff over, it's a lot more time consuming and a lot more difficult to get everything sent over and fixed for you there. Remember, once we go ahead and export an invoice or a payment to your accounting system, it's locked. You can't even unpost anymore. So you can't make any changes in ServiceTitan once we go ahead and we export everything over into ServiceTitan. So super, 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 super important to bear that in mind and watch out for that going forward. Some common things or some best practices we want to make sure that we're doing here is have some type of standardization in your customer names, because we can't have duplicate customer names. Each customer name in ServiceTitan has to be unique so that each customer name in your accounting system is unique. You also regularly want to review and update any customer or vendor mappings that you have in ServiceTitan so that there are no errors that occur in between there. We also want to check the price book regularly to ensure that all of your items are mapped to the correct general ledger account. Remember, in ServiceTitan, like we talked about when we were integrating, every price book item has to be associated with the general ledger account. If you create one and you don't do that association, it will error out and not go over to QuickBooks and cause an issue there. So we want to make sure that we are, every time we're adding a new product and service, that everything is mapped to a GL account, and that you do a periodic, maybe once a quarter, at least once a year review of your price book to make sure that everything has a GL account associated to help reduce the chance of an error happening in the export. Always, always, always review the transactions before posting a batch. Like I said, make sure before you post that batch that that invoice is done. We're not planning to give any discounts. That may happen, but it wasn't something we planned to do. There's not any more notes that have to be made. There's not any new products or services that need to be added to it. We are done with that invoice before we post it. Same thing with payments. That is the payment that was received. It wasn't falsely put in or anything like that, because once we post it, it locks it down. And then also make sure we're exporting smaller and more frequent batches to make troubleshooting easy. I already said that one. That is really the biggest thing, is make sure, please, 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 that you are breaking down your batches so that they aren't huge, like 100 transactions, 200 transactions going over. We really do recommend doing daily batching, daily postings, daily exportings, because while even for a large company that can be a lot of transactions, it's going to be a whole lot less than if you were doing it weekly or monthly or something like that. And if you are a larger company, if you've got 15, 20, 30 trucks on the road, you may want to break it down where you've got a morning batch and an afternoon batch. Or you break it down by kind of where the job occurred. Was it in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter type thing, so that you're not having huge amounts of transactions. Really, we like to see those transactions in a batch be under 50, but really max out at the max, really around 100, just so that there's less chance for these errors to occur. Now, there's a lot of different errors that could occur, and we are going to do another video specifically on kind of those errors and some common errors there, along with some other troubleshooting that we need to do there. So look out for that video. We'll get that posted soon. As always, guys, thanks for joining us here. Hopefully this helps you out, helps you better understand how to work within your QuickBooks and how to work with your QuickBooks there and your ServiceTitan or whatever accounting platform that you are using. If you found this video useful, helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel here. Share this with anyone that you know is having issues with ServiceTitan in QuickBooks. And if you need help beyond that, go ahead and, like I said at the beginning, reach out to us here at Waterford Business Solutions. We specialize in helping home service companies running softwares like ServiceTitan manage their books and understand their finances and get these third-party softwares integrated correctly. Until next week, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.